That's settled. My name is Danitza James, and I go by D. I'm a U.S. Army combat veteran, a military spouse, a social worker, and the president at Repatriate Our Patriots, where our mission is to help in the repatriation of deported veterans and to prevent future deportations. Joining me today is Jose Vasquez. He is also an Army veteran and executive director for Common Defense. What's important is the conversation, the information that we have to share with all of our viewers tonight. And it's really going to be revolving around the DNC that happened just short time ago. And at the same time, we're going to talk about the importance of the Latino vote, but more importantly, even more specific, the veteran Latino vote. As you guys know, like I mentioned, I am the president for Repatriate Our Patriots. And as a service member who served in the military with a green card, that means I was not a US citizen. I was not allowed to vote. So I served for 6.5 years, and I was willing to give my life for this nation, yet I had no say-so on who our commander in chief was, nor could I take part of any other political activity. So that's our conversation is going to be revolving around that and the injustice of veteran deportation and how the veterans that are currently deported, who were willing to give their lives for this country, are not able to vote or take part in any of this political process. It really didn't hit me on the importance and how big of a deal it is, and it was, right? The fact that service members who are not US citizens are willing to join and fight for our freedom, um, and not even have a say so on the political process in this country. It is estimated that about 45,000 immigrants serve on active duty. And that's about, a government report estimated about 5,000 legal permanent residents, that means not US citizens, enlist each year. That's 45,000 votes. That's 45,000 people of this nation who are not able to vote. And for me, I just wonder, what our politicians think about that. How come it hasn't become a priority to make sure that the service members who join our military and are willing to fight and die for this country do not have a real pathway to citizenship? Um, there's a lot of conversations and legislative um, bills and reports that have been in the works for several years now, but nothing has been passed. Nothing has been set in stone to where service members can truly serve in the military and obtain their naturalization and continue their career in the military. So, with that being said, right, we currently have on our database at Repatriate Our Patriots, we have close to 400 service members who are currently deported in deportation proceedings or at risk of deportation, and that is one too many. And our focus at Repatriate Our Patriots is to make sure that we stop the bleeding, meaning we don't get any more deported veterans, right? Veterans do not continue to be deported. Naturalization and basic training is something that is happening right now within several branches, but there's no set parameters. There is a memorandum of understanding between the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security, and making sure that naturalizations and the naturalization process is completed while they're in basic training. Roughly, there has been about, I'm going to say 1,500 service members who have naturalized at basic training from the last reports that we received. But that is a memorandum of understanding. That is not legislation. That is not a law that is set in stone. That is just an agreement made between two departments, and that it can go away at any time. So for me, like, that's just it's too fragile. to have that in place in such important issue. And I think that we need to do better. Our politicians need to do better. Um, we have asked and we continue to ask President Biden and Vice President Harris for their assistance in making sure that this does not continue to happen. And I have to say, having seen Representative Gallegos at the DNC and speaking from his military perspective, he has been a supporter of bills and legislation that are in favor of veteran deportation, right? That uh, bills that prevent and that are bipartisan bills that prevent future deportations. Representative Gallegos met us in New Mexico 2 years ago at the LULAC conference, and he expressed to us how supportive he is of veterans obtaining their naturalization while in service. He's an immigrant himself, and so he can relate to the importance of this, and most definitely can relate to what service means. So some of the work that Repatriate Our Patriots has been doing in the past several months and the last year has been advocating for the Veteran Service Recognition Act. That is HR 4569. The bill was introduced by Representative Takano a second time, and yet again, we were not able to obtain bipartisan support to get it across the finish line. And we had an idea that it will be challenging and difficult because being an election year, but we are hopeful, and we are going to be very perseverant and continuing to advocate for this issue, and to tell the public, right, that this is not a Democrat or a Republican issue. This is not an immigration issue. This is a military issue. This is a promise that our military has been given to our service members as they join, as they recruit them, and they're just not fulfilling that. They're not fulfilling the promise of join the military and obtain your naturalization. So we're going to continue to hold them accountable. We're going to continue to put pressure, and we hope to bring something soon to change this. Common Defense has been really active and very instrumental and across the nation, really. Pennsylvania, Arizona, you name it, Common Defense has been there. And they were at the DNC, and they represented the veterans who care about our political state of our country, and they were there to represent us and share the issues and concerns that we have in this coming year. So Jose's going to try a different browser to see if that helps. We hope that he can join us. But again, so Repatriate Our Patriots has been working on legislative advocacy. And at the same time, we are currently working with Immigrant Defenders. Immigrant Defenders is a nonprofit organization that provides pro bono services for veterans who have been deported. We are working with them in conducting outreach. We are currently conducting outreach for any veterans or family members who are from LA County, or who at the time of deportation were living in LA County and have plans to return to LA County. We received some funding to help with the naturalization process for the veteran and their families, and we really hope that we can help and impact some lives in this aspect. It has been an uphill battle, very challenging work in this space. Currently there's no funding allowed for organizations like ROP, because it's something that not a lot of people are aware of, right? This issue, myself, I didn't even know that this was happening, and I was a service member who served with a green card, who left the military without a citizenship, and could have been deported. I only found out about this back in 2019. And that's when I couldn't just sit by and like not do anything about it. So now for me, this is a personal mission that I have. I come from an immigrant family and I became a veteran. So it's only fair that that I give back, right? And that I bring awareness to something that I personally was impacted by, and something that is going to continue to impact so many more if something doesn't change. So, for those of you who are not familiar with Repatriate Our Patriot, you can go to our website at repatriateourpatriots.org. You can follow us on social medias: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X. We have the same handle for all of them. And you can learn more about the work that we've been doing, and the work that we will continue to do. Another aspect of this that I really wanted to touch base on is how deeply impacted military families are uh, throughout this whole process as well. Just recently, we had a family who was separated due to the immigration process. And it's not only the spouse that suffers through this impacts the children, and it impacts the entire community. And so this is again, excuse me, I'm just trying to see if Jose is able, that I saw something, but yeah, so families are also impacted by this. And as we all know, and probably have heard recently in the news about the shortage on military recruiting that our military is experiencing right now. What with military recruiting shortages and retention issues, right? This is where this is something easy that can be fixed. And naturalization, it opens the door to so many other opportunities for service members to actually make a career out of it and do 20 years, have a successful career in the military, and really invest in what the military has to offer. A lot of us, I only served 6 years. I know several other service members, they don't really do 20 or plus years as immigrants and non-citizens, and that is because of restrictions to job opportunities that they can have. I was a truck driver myself. On my deployments, in 2003, I was a truck driver. We was hauling fuel, and in 2005, I was a 50 cal gunner. Our company did patrol escorts and escorted civilian truck drivers to deliver supplies throughout the Tsunami Triangle. So the roles and jobs, while they're honorable and it's a job that needs to be done, it really is narrow in the opportunities that can give you. So my plan, there is Jose.
Hey, there we go.
There you go. Thank you for joining us. So finally, thank you. Well, thank you for joining me. And as I mentioned before, I really wanted to get your perspective on how was your experience at the DNC, and what you saw and what Common Defense was able to participate in.
Yeah, thanks. So this is my first time going to the DNC, and we were there to fly the flag, the Common Defense flag, just try to build more relationships with elected officials. We actually had two of our members, Signa Oliver and Sylvia Gonzalez, and that were delegates from Arizona. So they were inside there as well. We also have another member, Jessica Motzinger from Illinois, who's very active with Illinois Veterans for Change, who was there hosting an event. So there was a big veterans event at the local IBEW Union Hall. So it was great. A lot of, opportunities to connect with fellow vets, elected officials that are vets. Got to meet people like Ruben Gallego, who you mentioned earlier, Tammy Duckworth, Seth Moulton, Chrissy Houlihan, Mikey Sherrill, lots of great folks that are serving in Congress that are veterans. And all the major veterans organizations were represented there as well as that event. And of course, in the convention hall, we've got our senior NCO, Governor Tim Walz,
Yes.
who, holding it down for the NCO Corps. So overall, super excited. I was able to be in the actual convention space on Wednesday when Walz gave his speech. I was also there with other staff from Common Defense, Joanna Sweat, who's our organizing director and just spoke earlier today on the broadcast, as well as Janice Jameson, our special projects director, and Jacob Thomas, who's our comms director. So overall, it's a great experience.
That's amazing. And I have to say, as an NCO, you and I both know it is the backbone, right? It is the backbone of the military, and we have one of the most senior member running as vice president, and that I cannot say how happy that makes me to have an NCO, someone who understands this, right, and the opportunities that he can bring to military families and veterans, because he's one of us.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, anybody who served in the military understands the relationship between a commander and a sergeant major, and the role that the sergeant major is supposed to play in terms of just, taking care of the troops, making sure everybody's fed, everybody gets their mail, everybody gets their, supplies, whatever they need. So yeah, it's pretty encouraging to see somebody like him, somebody who has a 24-year career in the Army National Guard, and understands the daily experiences of troops. And, even as a representative, he was very outspoken supporter of the veteran community for understandable reasons. So super excited to have him in the White House coming soon.
Yeah, same over here. And earlier, you probably did hear me talk about the importance of the Latino vote, right? How important the Latino vote is right now, and also the importance of service members who are Hispanics or immigrants, period, right? Who are currently serving and have served as non-citizens, as legal permanent residents. And something a couple months ago, I was having a discussion about this and about the elections and the whole process that is going on right now. And it hit me that for the 6 years that I served in the military and the 2 combat tours that I did, not once was I allowed to vote for my commander in chief. And that really just opened my eyes to another area, right, of importance of the importance of service members who are not U.S. citizens obtain their naturalization while they're in the service, and to prevent, not only to prevent veteran deportation, but at the same time is to give them a voice, in the election process, to give them a voice on what comes next.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned before, there's currently like a sort of maybe not unofficial, but just a memorandum of understanding that's between the current program of naturalizing folks in basic training, and that could easily be overturned, right? So I think we do need legislation on that. It also just reminds me that places like Puerto Rico and Guam, American Samoa, there are people that serve in our military and often don't have representation in Congress, right? So there's a lot of contradictions when it comes to that. I mean, hell, for that matter, people that live in Washington D.C. also don't have representation in Congress, or at least representation that can vote. So these are definitely some things that I think need to be addressed. But going back to your original point about the Latino population, we're fast growing in many states across the United States, and I think that Latino people have contributed to the building of this country, from its inception. So I think that. And not to mention, people have been serving in our military since the beginning. So, to think that those very basic rights of being able to vote would be stripped away from folks, and I think in places like Texas, we're already seeing voter purges. There was a raid on LULAC staff and volunteers, and so I think that the right wing is scared because they know they can't run on the merits of their policies and of their positions. The poll after poll demonstrates that a lot of the policies that they support don't resonate with voters, and so I think the way they are approaching winning elections is by trying to discourage as many people as possible or to block as many people as possible from voting. And there's no limits to their deprivation because now they're actually going after our active duty military and our veterans.
Yeah, 100%. And when you think about numbers, right? We say every vote matters. Every vote matters. So when we say that, I mean, we have seen very low margins on like making the decision, being the decided vote, right? Like who wins, whether it's one or the other. And when you think about 5,000 legal permanent residents that enlist in the military each year who are not able to vote, right? Our military really needs to get on this and make sure that there is a path for citizenship to give those service members who are willing to die for this country a right to vote, right? That is one of the basic rights, and not it's a thought more than voting, right? There are other programs and benefits that they will have access to, not only them but their families. And it is about I believe the last report, it said that like 148,000 immigrants, they've earned their citizenship through the military service in the last 20 years. So we need, like, yeah, we could probably do better on that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's important to note that like this isn't a partisan issue, or at least it shouldn't be, right? It's like, I want anybody who is a citizen of this country to be able to vote. And, if they're Republican or independent, if they're, other third parties, Democrat, what have you, it's like the we can sort of win the battle at the ballot box, and not try to like keep people away from having the ability to vote. Um, it's something that people have fought and died for. Not only in the military, but our the civil rights movement. People put their lives on the line to be able to win the ability to vote and to enfranchise everyone. So I think that this should appeal to anybody who cares about the Constitution, anybody who cares about the future of our nation. And we can always disagree on policy positions and economic policies and all of that. But at the end of the day, what makes this country great is that we're bringing all of these different people from all over the world together. Immigrants, indigenous people, you name it. We're all here together. Because of our values, because we have the respect of law and the rule of law. And I think a lot of folks on the right have forgotten that.
Absolutely. And that is exactly what makes the American dream, right? All of the different things that we have to offer.